I'll start to.
Right. Okay, today we're here with Tanure Ojaide, who's going to discuss and read his poem, Remembering for Sign and Breath. Welcome, Tanure.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to read Remembering. And this poem was inspired by the death of my best friend, Ben. I traveled to Israel for a conference on a scholarly trip, not a pilgrimage. And one day we went to Jerusalem to just visit so many historical sites. And that day I had a very strange feeling. I knew something was going wrong, but I cannot put a hand at it. And when I came back from the conference to Charlotte, North Carolina, my wife told me after she didn't go to work, which was strange. After giving me food, after eating, oh, Ezekiel was sick and couldn't make it. And he died at the very moment I was feeling awkward in Jerusalem. He died in Nigeria, Sapele, and that's the origin of this poem. I'll talk about the rinderpest, a disease that kills cows, and the roko is the strongest tree in the tropical area. Remembering for Ezekiel Okwan, the day the farmer lost all his harvest to locusts, the day the herdsman lost all his cows to rinderpest, the day the fisherman lost his boat and nets to a storm, the day there was a total eclipse of the sun, the day fire left dry leaves to burn out green ones, the day water failed to quench the burning thirst, the day the wind refused to blow away smoldering fumes, the day the earth opened a bottomless pit to another world, the day the muse trashed the minstrel, the day the minstrel was struck dumb, the day the goat refused to eat yam leaves, the day the parrot refused to eat corn, the day the drums refused to beat for the dancer, the day the roko was struck down by lightning, the day erased from the memory of celebrations, the day gone down without a record of his hours, the day all the gates closed to the fugitive, the day the crossroads refused its sacrifice, the day all the alarms refused to go off, the day the clear-eyed guide lost his vision, the day the boneless beast opened his mouth to swallow an entire man like sauteed crayfish. That was the day of the summer solstice, when in Jerusalem, my best friend died in Sapele.
Oh, thank you for that beautiful, moving poem, Tanure. Such a powerful ending and so much accretion that I can hear that I want to ask you about, especially that recitation, which is just mesmerizing. And tell us about how that feels, Tanure, to say a poem like that.
Oh, how does it feel? You know, when you lose a best friend, and we were so close, even when he died. You know, in Nigeria, people are not buried sometimes immediately when they die. And he was not buried for another month or two. And you know, in my dreams, I was still going to places with him, relating as if he was alive, just to show how close we were. So, so you expect a poem that type of poem to capture that feeling. It was a living saint, I would say. It was such a beautiful human being, always lively, always happy, and so you know what it means to lose that type of human treasure, and I try to capture it as much as I can. And especially, it was a day I couldn't forget. I couldn't forget. We were in Tel Aviv for something, then we went to Jerusalem. But that whole day, something was happening. And at the moment he died, from my recollection, I felt something was happening which I couldn't understand. And I don't know, just the feeling, I hope, yeah, I was able to capture it in the poem, yeah.
Well, I've had the privilege, Tanure, of hearing you recite and read and bring the oral tradition to audiences. And I know that that's something that you bring from your background. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up with poetry as voice.
Okay, yeah, thank you for asking this. Yeah, see, even before I went to school to learn English, to study English, and this, of course, I spoke my indigenous Nigerian language, Urobo, and I heard songs. My grandmother raised me, and she was always singing, always. And these songs were very meaningful. So by the time I was in high school, I went to the university, and I was studying poetry. I felt what my mother was doing, my grandmother was doing, was singing poetry. So in fact, the words for poem and song in my language are the same. The words for poetry and song are the same. So poetry is meant to be sung. Like this poem, it's almost like an oral tradition superimposed upon writing. And in fact, many of us Africans do that. See, there are genres like the Uje, it's a satiric song, or there are chants like the Oriki of the Yoruba or the Zibongo of the Zulu. But this one I've just read, it's almost like a chant. It's a chant, the day. So I think from the beginning, I tried to negotiate a relationship between the oral tradition and the written tradition. But I feel the written tradition will not work, the written poem will not work without taking into cognizance the reality of everything. See, after all, when I write any poem at all, I vocalize it first internally and then later externally. And in the process of the two types of vocalization, I feel, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. In fact, I don't write, when I write a poem, the end, like in my tradition, the tradition I grew up, see, a poem is not complete until it is performed. The poem is never complete until it is performed, which shows that our ancestors felt that you can be a great composer, you can put words together and everything, but there's something more to it. It's only when it is performed to an audience, people listen to it, I can see your use of words, your voice in it before it is done. So the voice is very important. It's not just enough to have words. Those words have to be put together. But you know, the voice itself carries the feelings. If you are trying to express ideas or you want to express feelings, what could carry it more than the voice, rather than just word or written word? No. If you are writing a love poem, for instance, or you are writing a dirge, or you are writing anything, the voice is I think is the greatest determinant of your true feelings, rather than the inflection, the tonality. These things are part of the poem itself, which words alone don't carry. So I think words alone don't carry that. So in the African tradition, I would say that the poem is not fully done until it is performed to an audience. Somebody has to listen to it. You have to vocalize it. And that's why the voice is that completes the poem. The poem is almost lifeless on the page, but you give life to it when you vocalize it. So the voice itself is the destination of any composition. You are composing, how will this sound? Yeah, even in the West, it's almost the same. But let me talk about mine, because if you are using rhyme scheme or anything, you are still aiming at some time that, oh, when I read this in this, what's going to happen? If you listen to someone like yes, WB Yes, read The Lake Isle of Innisfree. Look at the way. So voice in the African tradition, and I think also in the Western tradition, I think is very important in bringing out the essence, I would say, of the poem, not the words per se, the voice that comes out of it, what people hear you say. That's the beauty of a poem. The beauty of the poem is not, you don't see any beauty in a poem really, not too much on the page. You can, in fact, a computer can just put a poem for you there, but the poem you vocalize, the beauty comes out of it. Beauty, the repetition, the inflection of your voice, is the tonality and the pitch. All these things matter a lot. So voice, again, I would say, is very crucial to poetry.
Tanure Ojaide, thank you so much for your beautiful poem, for your rendition, and for your insight into that rendition. Performance completes the poem.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure inviting me for this event. Thank you.